Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Liberation Podcast. Today we will be discussing, analyzing, and reviewing the newest dungeon crawler, Carl, A Parade of Horribles by Matt Dinniman. For more content outside of the podcast, please check out our Instagram and TikTok at Literary Liberation and Twitter at LitLibPodcast. We are still fundraising for Code Pink. They do a lot of really great work around the world. They're anti-imperialists. They're really fucking cool. And I think they still have their campaign going on for Cuba. So we'll leave the link down below so if you can donate to that, that would be really cool. I'm your co-host Mariah, and you can find me at Hungry Riot on all social media platforms.
And I'm your co-host Kristen. You can find me at TensTBR on all social media platforms.
It's here. It's finally here.
If you guys were with us all throughout last year, we did do full in-depth reviews of the entirety of what was out of Dungeon Crawler Carls, which was at this point the last one we did about 6 months ago. So we've been waiting a hot minute for A Parade of Horribles to come out, because originally last year Goodreads had this coming out as last year, but then I guess with like the way they were doing all their trad publishing stuff, it ended up pushing this one to be published now. So, but it's finally here. We've been waiting to do this one. And
God, it was such a bummer because we had everything lined up. It was perfect up until November, I think, is when it was allegedly supposed to come out. Like, we were like, one book a month, we can get through it easy peasy. And then we were gutted because we're like, holy shit, we're left on this like cliffhanger. We don't know what's gonna happen. Yeah,
I mean, and that's the thing too. So for this, usually if you've watched any of our other episodes, we kind of like do a little bit in depth about like the author's politics and stuff and how that influences their writing. We've already talked about Matt Dinniman in depth, not only here, but we also did review Operation Bounce House earlier this year. And that one we talked about it because I think the only really new thing now is that maybe some other clips have come out with this tour where he's just been like, my political stand is very clearly what I've written, which if you, again, have read Dungeon Crawler Carl up to this far, it's what right-wingers would call like woke slop or whatever they want to claim that it is, because it is very clearly like anti-imperialism, anti-capitalism, at least anti-corporatism for sure. I think it definitely is leaning more into like the anti-capitalism messaging within this book specifically. So Matt Dinniman, he's at least on the left, and I think from this aspect, he's pro-revolution, where me and Mariah, again, don't really know if he's like a Trotskyist where it's like revolution forever sort of thing or what, because obviously he's never like came out and said like I'm a Marxist-Leninist, but we are Marxist-Leninists, so we are reading this within the context of our bias of being Marxist-Leninists as well, Marxist-Feminist Leninists specifically too.
Yeah, now we're Marxist-Leninist Dinnemanists. So just know we wholeheartedly support this series. It's really interesting though, because like the people in my life that did bring this to me are Marxists. They're like, you need to read this series. And I was like, shout out to Sydney.
Yeah.
Sydney's the one that really pushed it. And I was like, I don't know. And now it's in my heart and soul. So every time I see somebody pop online and criticize it for the first couple of chapters of the first book, I'm like, I just want to take them and shake them. Like, you don't know anything.
Which, again, because we can talk about like the AI and its implications as we discuss this book more in depthly. I mean, overall, again, like this is a series that means so much to Mariah and I. I mean, if you're watching the video, you can see behind me, I have a whole shelf displayed for Carl. Mariah special ordered. Mariah wants all the original paperbacks, which I don't think that's ever going to happen, buddy. Unless any of our
not unless I rob someone, or that too, I guess.
Matt Dinniman personally signs them all to us, because I mean, we have a few theories too. I think Matt Dinniman is a fan, whether or not he wants to publicly admit he listens to Literary Liberation.
I was basically in this book. I was reading. I was like, oh. I don't know why this is the second time this year this has happened, and it really freaks me out.
Yeah.
I don't like it. But we can't do this episode without spoilers. So just saying, this is going to be super bare bones. Also, I just finished this book today. This book has like tremendously good rating so far. It looks like it has a
Yeah.
4.74 star average. Now, this is going to be skewed because anyone that's made it this far obviously enjoyed the previous books enough to continue the series. So keep that in mind. 14,000 ratings right now, 2,000 reviews, written reviews. It's been out for a little over 1 week at this
Now,
point.
yes. Well, because that's one thing too. I don't know how many reviews because I actually had to do the Goodreads work because Mariah was very slow about finishing Carl. This read through. So usually Mariah does this, but I was looking at a lot. First of all, whenever I was looking at like the 1-star reviews, the 1-star and 2-star reviews, they're less than 1%. And then there's no written reviews for any of them either. Like you can't even find like people just like putting the star ratings. It just says there's like 14 of them or whatever, which I thought was weird. But also, a lot of the 5-star reviews, I don't know if they're people that actually read them too, because some of them are from months ago, and I don't know anything about any arcs coming out for this, which, I mean, maybe there was a lot of digital arcs or something, but I didn't see any, like, arc discourse like you normally do for books, so I don't really know how many people have actually read it, or people are just, like, rating it 5 stars as soon as it was announced on Goodreads, like people like to do, you know?
It'll be interesting to see if this will change. I don't think it will. I don't think it's going to change like how Catabasis rating went from being like an over 4-star rating. Now it's like a 3 point something star rating. I think this is going to stay above a 4.5 because all the other books, for the most part, are
I
really
think
well
they're
received.
all over 4-star average. I mean, I wouldn't say this one was my favorite Carl, but I did very much enjoy this one. This one is a very fast-paced Carl. This one feels the most like at a true floor versus like the inevitable ruin. That was obviously a floor, but there was so much other stuff going on within that this is like more like Bedlam Bride felt like a really good floor. Butcher's Masquerade didn't really feel like much of a floor because you were waiting for that big climax at the end, but like Feral Gods was a floor. Like this one was like the true like floory floor book. Like we're kind of back to our roots in this one, I
Yeah.
felt.
I think because this one didn't really have like a proper quest line that we were following. It was just the crawlers versus NPCs doing something for entertainment. It felt very reminiscent of the Anarchist Cookbook book, where you just have like people doing things and they're grouped up trying to make sense of stuff. And it seems like everyone in this, they're kind of just trying to make sense of the floor, which we're gonna get into spoilers. Okay, I'm marking it. It's early, but what do you want to do? What do you want to do about it? We're this far in.
I mean,
We all thought it was going to be like a Mad Max theme based on like the cover art coming out. It's
but
not.
it's a lot more Mario Kart, in my opinion.
That surprised me so much. I was not expecting that at
Which
all.
you say that, but then like this is a lit RPG, right?
Yeah. Well,
So
I knew they
the
would be racing.
inspirations will be more video
I
game
just
elements rather than. Do you know what I'm saying?
it does
In
make
that
sense. I
aspect.
did play a lot of like motocross games growing up. Fun fact.
So we start in like the interlude too. We don't even start with the first heat. We start with Donut because at the beginning of the Inevitable Ruin, we get uh Carl's offer for what deals he could get, whether or not he wants to leave the dungeon, right? Because that's what they do to all the crawlers. But we don't get Donut's perspective until this book. It starts off basically with Donut talking to her lawyer. You get her lawyer's perspective, which is Carl's wife, which Carl only ends up being her wife because of the antics that he did on the Inevitable Ruin floor, where he ended up killing like all of the Naga's boss because they were one of the factions in Faction War. And so then she was able to like basically assert herself into being like Carl's wife, which I imagine there's going to be more legal implications within that will probably end up getting explored in the next book.
Yeah, it was under like widows' rights. It was really interesting. I liked how that brought into like the broader like galaxy, like in their rules and how it works with the systems. Because I was very confused at the end of the Inevitable Ruin.
Yeah, so but then she's obviously another person that's robbing like Carl and Donut of all the money that they're making through like their own partnerships and like what's going on outside of the crawl, because obviously like we know crawlers can't like make money, or like they can like through their likeness and stuff, but then the idea is that like whoever's making the product, they get to extract like the value of it, and they'll get like some type of royalties after they're out of the dungeon, because even nobody's ever completed the dungeon at all at any point of where we're at in the story, right? And so nobody's ever actually like received like their benefits until after they finish like whatever seasons of deals they take to, like, you know, whatever have you. Like Mordecai became a game guide for however many floors, you know, and all the other
Yeah.
crawlers have taken whatever have you deals. Odette became like the host of a TV show and stuff. There's a bunch of different deals that could be taken. I know.
I did think it was interesting how early on we are getting kind of like this social commentary on conservatorship, which was done really
Yes.
nicely, because that's essentially what the lawyer slash Carl's husband is functioning as.
Wife.
And that is something that's been really, yeah, sorry.
Queer Carl?
It's
I
been,
wish.
in my head canon,
Yes, so
impreg.
true.
Anyways, but you know, like with Britney Spears and Ben Margera, like we're getting a lot more
Isn't
examples
Paris
of.
Hilton, or was she too, or no? At some point.
I don't remember in her memoir her talking about being under conservatorship. She just went to one of those like brat camps,
Oh, okay.
which is like, that's like a whole other like beast. But she didn't. I don't think she was under conservatorship
Okay.
because she got whipped into shape or some. I don't know. That's a conversation for when we do our memoir ranking coming soon.
Anyways, we're talking about conservative ships and how basically Donut and Carl are underneath one throughout the crawl, and I imagine every other crawler is. And we already know, like, because of the real world, how exploitative and harmful those are, especially to even people that we view as like wealthy, like Britney Spears and things like that. But then those people are still workers, you know? Like, people like to look at like certain actors and musicians as they're not like a part of the working class, where the because they have more wealth than the average person.
Yeah, and like I don't think people realize is that like conservatorships can extend outside of, you know, like celebrities. Like it's for people
Yes.
who are like deemed like
Unable
unfit
to,
to care for themselves,
yeah.
which is
Mental health is
really,
usually a lot
yeah,
of stuff, or elderly people too. A lot of elderly discrimination happens within America, besides the people in Congress, for some reason. I will never understand that.
yeah, so this can happen to quite literally anybody. I know because of my line of work, I work with memory care. Usually people voluntarily surrender their rights before they go in. However, if you're somebody that gets dementia and you're just like wandering the streets, you don't have any children, the state will enact it, and then you'll have essentially like a guardian. It's really interesting how it works out, but just so early on in this book, we are getting just like a little sprinkle to get us thinking more. And then very quickly, we're in the race. We're in the heat one. There's 7 heats of this race where people are put up against NPCs, other crawlers.
A bunch of crawlers have
Probability is
left,
very
though,
quick. Yeah, this is also true. We learned very quickly just how many crawlers are left in the race.
which is 5,000 or so, because a bunch of them end up taking deals. Because the thing is that we know Carl has a plan. Carl's not been able to talk to every person on the floor, because not even everybody joined their faction in the faction wars. Some people worked with the NPCs, some people did other stuff with the other factions, and they can only do so much with how much like solidarity there is between people. Because again, like, that's one thing that whenever, and like in the future maybe, where if there's any type of revolution and stuff too, like, there will be other working class people that don't understand that we're fighting for their rights and their freedom, which is what like Carl and Donut are doing, is they're fighting for the crawls to never happen again to any other being in the world, right? And so, but these people, they're more selfish, I guess, in a way, but also it makes sense because it's usually such an unprecedented thing that you don't know what to believe, what to do. especially if you have family, because we know like all of the kids and stuff are kind of cooked, being trapped inside Lucia Mar.
Lucia Mar. And the fact that she did not take she didn't take a deal. She's still
Which
here.
the thing is too, we don't get Lucia Mar's perspective either. So how much of her not taking a deal was her not getting the option to take a deal, or is it whoever's in control of those children and stuff not wanting them to take a deal? Because we really don't know. The Born community, like, perspective and stuff is still like, we don't know a lot, because the most we get is like Cascadia, and she's cooked this season, you know, pretty much,
She
because like
is.
she starts off like having like a whole monologue of her screaming, crying, like begging to be killed by the AI, and the AI doesn't even do it.
Because everyone's stuck
Yeah.
in this system.
But then we're also introduced to NPCs and stuff within this floor, and the NPCs, we already know that they're sentient, right? Before this, because of the way that the faction wars work and everything. And now the AI has to use that to its benefit, where before, in the earlier floors and previous crawls, they could just use the NPCs to do whatever bidding there was. And now we have the autonomy of them being relevant, which I don't know what you think like a real world, like, comparison to make of them. I don't know if you view them as more like petite bourgeois or even like lumpen proletariat.
It almost reminds me like in US history, there was a point where there was a lot of solidarity amongst like the white indentured servants and like the people who were being brought over because of chattel slavery, right? Which is like
Mm-hmm.
why we had like these different rebellions and whatnot, solidarity take place. And then there was a lot of other factors that went through. I'm not being a reductionist, but the introduction of these like night watchers, like slave catchers, helped embolden this like new emerging white working class in the United States. So it gave them like a leg up. So I almost felt like the crawlers were functioning as like the more like the colonized class, right? And
Oh, I
the
see.
NPCs,
Yeah,
even though they're like dungeon born, they have this like, oh,
they're
well, you
more
get to take it
oppressed
out.
almost in a
It's
way
yeah, like in a
because
sense, because it's
they're
not like
stuck.
the Ben Shapiro like pyramid of like hierarchies trying to find like the most. Have you ever heard his like you got to find
No.
like the most oppressed person? You need to find like the black trans disabled woman, and then they can weigh in on things. That's like what Republicans think of. I'm not doing that. I'm just talking historically. If
Well,
you'd like to learn more about it, you can read the Howard Zinn book, or you can read I don't know, there's so many other books you can read on the people's history and indigenous people's history. Two sources.
yeah,
There you go. Um, that's what came to my mind
that
first
makes
is when
sense.
that was happening.
Yeah.
Does that follow? Which is like also I'm like Carl's very aware of class-based society in this, and I
Yes.
think this is like there's more and more instances of this happening. With the NPCs, their dialogue, what's happening, how they're organizing,
Well,
how like Carl, despite like finally having like a little bit of a break, he doesn't have a break and he's trying to just save as many people as he possibly can,
but
despite what is happening.
his priority is still crawlers though over NPCs, even though like the NPCs, they say whoever like wins their race, they get whatever their like version of out is, which we obviously don't really understand because that happens like within his first. Whenever they have their first race and they end up, you can see cat hair all over my screen, but whenever they have their first race and the I don't remember the Russian bear things. What were they? I don't know what kind of creatures they were technically.
The bugbears or
Yeah,
whatever.
is that what they were?
I
Whatever
thought
the
so.
Russian guys were that were like their neighbors.
Oh,
That they like crash or whatever, but they don't die because like they're like the other group dies. Don't remember who they are. Sorry, NPCs, but they die, and then Carl ends up towing these Russian dudes or whatever to that because like they want to save as many NPCs as possible because they're going to use the NPCs so that whenever the race has happened, that the regular crawlers are only against NPCs, not against other crawlers. Because if you don't one, like, if you don't make it to the end, then you die, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's like made really apparent in like the first and second heat, and it's not until what the third or the fourth heat where there starts to have like these crawler versus crawler interactions, and we have Osvaldo and his
That's not
party
till
that
way
gets
later, I think.
introduced.
I think like
I
5.
thought he was.
Well,
I don't
because
remember. Dude,
they
there's so much lore. This is here's the thing. This we can because of how new this book is. We can't properly plan this and read it ahead of time as much as we would prefer.
because Matt
We're
Dinniman
trying to
didn't
stay.
give us any arcs,
I
so
didn't get any arcs. I didn't get anything. So we're still like I finished this 15 minutes before we started filming. And there's so much lore going back through all of the highlights that I took. And
yeah.
despite having this like lightly organized, there's so much, and I'm so sorry because there's no way I'm going to even like either of us are going to be able to pay heed to all of the little like nuances in this series. And I know I missed stuff too. Even going back on this, I'm like, oh shit, like what is happening at the end of the book makes more sense of other things that happened earlier on.
Even throughout the whole
But we're
series,
still
this
yeah, even
recontextualizes
throughout the
everything.
whole series, like with like these massive lore drops, because like yeah, you have like the heats, then you have I think heat 3, right? Is that where they
That's
go
where I
on the
want
show?
Donut and Carl, maybe, whenever they go on the Plenty of Plenties, and they're discussing, well, because like that's whenever we kind of get the first thing too, that we learn that the feral gods that have been released from like the nothing and everything, like the AI actually doesn't have control over them, whenever before he did have some type of control in a way that it's presented. Well, because I mean, like, not even to mention, I'm trying to find where, but that one section
There was
is.
so much in 766 pages. I think this may be the most lore heavy Carl book, and it tied in so many loose ends that we had kind of been theorizing for so long. So when we had to like couple that with the political, it's like social commentary, it's a lot. I don't know how Matt keeps this straight because we did learn that he does not
Yeah, he said he
really have
doesn't
anything
like outline
organized.
or anything. He just kind of like goes.
He has what an Excel sheet with like 265 pages for the characters specifically and like what they have for like their levels. But that's I think that's about it.
I mean, he
I
said
think
he
he
doesn't
just
do
goes straight from the
outlines or
top of his
anything.
dome.
Which I
Ugh.
imagine in his brain, he's got to have some type of thing going on in his head. Because, like, you can tell a lot of this. Let's talk about the Pineapple Cabaret, because that's kind of like in the middle whenever it kind of gets introduced. Because we're introduced to Akuma. Is that his name? Where it's like some. I don't even know what he is technically. Like an NPC, or is he a former crawler? Or something. I don't
I
know what
think
he is.
he's just an awakened NPC, but he was
I
part
thought,
of
is he like
Agatha's
a
group.
residual? So then he's a residual probably.
Yeah.
Uh, so then like they're like, we have a way to get crawlers out, right? And our way to get crawlers out is through the Pineapple Cabaret, where if you don't know this, if you're only reading the e-copies or only listening to the audiobooks, at the end of every physical hardback copy, I assume probably the new paperback that just got released too, but like all of these, like the trad published copies that have been coming out, there is a section at the end of every book called Backstage at the Pineapple Cabaret. And I did not read them all like I said I would. Sorry, Mariah, but I got the gist of it whenever I was doing some research about it. Because like I read like the first 3 or 4 whenever like I was reading Carl too. But to me, they were like, basically what they do is they follow like NPCs after they've been awakened, sort of thing, and the AI's been taking them out and then been putting them in like this backstage at the Pineapple Cabaret. And there's like the lady that's doing stuff on the 17th floor. She's like she like made the Pineapple Cabaret for like NPCs to sort of like get out and stuff. And so at the end of each one of these chapters, you follow like an NPC that's been like awakened and how they're doing that. So like basically the seeds about the NPCs being like self-aware has been being planted since the first one has been trad published. And there is a TikTok I will link I'll have Mariah link it below if you want to know like the highlights of it, because it's not like super in depth. It kind of is just like fluff. There's not a lot, like there's not like so much substance. It's just like a little bit more like silly, goofy, like a little extra fun little thing where I don't think it's necessary for like the series, but it is like a fun little thing. So I'll send you that TikTok so you can link that if you don't have the physical copies to read that. There is a girl on TikTok that she's like summarized all of them basically and talked about them.
Alternatively, you could just go and sit on the ground in like a Barnes and Noble and just
Yeah,
sit
check
next
out
to the
like,
pile
yeah.
and just look at them and read like the back chapter,
They're
which is
all
probably
like
what I would
maybe
end up
10,
doing.
15 pages. They're not like super in depth like that, which I mean, like the first one is following one of the goblins. So, like, no offense, Carl genocided all of those NPCs back then before he realized like really what the NPCs were and like how they could become self-aware. Because I feel like the NPCs becoming self-aware don't really become a thing until like Anarchist Cookbook, I want to say, which when Growler Gary gets introduced, and he's kind of like a big thing within the Pineapple Cabaret. And I imagine the next books will discuss that more. But we're kind of introduced to this idea of the Pineapple Cabaret and where there's a way that we could send crawlers through these cleanup bots and like list them up on some market for sale. And there's somebody that's a previous crawler that they work on the 17th floor and they're able to buy the cleaner bot that's got crawlers in it and then basically extract the crawlers and get them to this Pineapple Cabaret where allegedly there's a war going on and they need to fight that, and then once they defeat those people, then that should have some type of connection to the surface to get back onto Earth. And Carl's like, this is a great alternative for people that are too scared to continue through the dungeon floor, where that is guaranteed death, almost certainly, with how many people die on every floor. But this is an option where you might not live, which they end up sending Lena, first off, to this Pineapple Cabaret, and they use like a special little cactus to like test whether or not it's safe or not, because Lena has basically lost all of her humanity from being in the dungeon, which I wish we got to spend more time with like Lena's character, but I do think she's a really cool character and a really important character, because I mean, like, this is what the dungeon does to people, and it's very like reminiscent of like what like capitalism does to people, where it makes you become like selfish, like not selfish, but you become like self-isolated and you're all to yourself, whenever like Lena did have this community around her, but she didn't feel like she could use that community to her benefit either, because of the horrors of the dungeon, and she just lost her brother, the people around her, like she has that feeling. There's no optimism in the world because everybody is suffering at such an extreme way.
Mm-hmm. She also had one of those rings that Carl had.
The
And I
divine
can't remember
suffering
what it,
ring.
yeah, so and she had marked somebody and they ended up dying before she could kill them, so she cannot heal herself anymore.
No.
So it was kind of either she leaves the dungeon in this and hopefully it works. And she has a nice little like monologue where she's talking to Zong.
Li Zhang, I think. I think that sounds right.
There was a lot of really nice like side character sort of
Arcs.
I just like you get some closure for some of these characters that they're not front and center all the time, but you get the same thing with like Chris and Amani. You learn a lot about like even like Brittany a little bit. You're learning more about her and what's happening to Brittany and Lewis and what they're gonna.
Lewis.
There's just so much.
His name is Louis.
Is it pronounced Louis?
Yes, this is what you get for not listening to the audiobook. Mariah doesn't listen to the audiobook, and she's a freakazoid for it, and she literally missed out. The best Dungeon Crawler Carl chapter to ever exist happened in this book, and it's the Take On Me chapter. That shit was fucking fire. That was like, Matt Dinniman, that was absolute cinema. Like, I'm not kidding. That shit was a movie. Matt Dinniman, you're a hero. They had the music, like the Take On Me music, and Jeff Hayes was singing as Carl for it. It was amazing. You missed on a beautiful scene.
My friend who's also reading this, like right now, was texting me like, "Oh, that you're doing the tandem read, right?" And I was like, "No."
Yeah,
you know what? I still have that to look forward to though, so I have something to hold on to.
you're missing
That's
out.
what
You
I'm
like
telling myself.
you're genuinely like I could not even imagine like going this far in Dinner Carl and you're missing so much of the story. Jeff Hayes is an artist, a voice of a generation. You know.
He's like Celine Dion of voice actors.
Well, I don't think Celine Dion's that popular anymore, so I don't think that's true.
I think so, but I'll be
But
the one that tests it because now I know. You know, it's a tandem read. Like I read it all with my head canon, and then I'll go back through.
yeah, and you're
Then
pronouncing
it'll
names
be an
wrong.
experience.
His name is Louis.
Louis, I'm sorry, Louis Vuitton. Is he French?
No, he apparently that's like Matt Dinniman self-insert from what I've seen from interviews.
That's funny.
He's like, I'm basically Louis, so if you, I guess, I imagine it's a lot of the humor and stuff because the way, like, Louis is kind of crude and like silly, goofy, you know. But
Well, what? How do we want to approach the next bit? Like we have we haven't even like perfectly gone through all of the different heats.
no, you've been
To be
wanting to skip
honest,
around.
sorry.
Well,
We
because
can
we can
go
talk about.
back. We can take it back if you want.
Well, I think Pony Perpetente has such a beautiful arc in this book as well. I love Perpetente. He's one of my favorite characters, especially within these last two books. He has had such great growth after losing Miriam Dom in the fifth book. I think she dies. And he's just been very lost. And we see it too a lot in this whenever he introduced his pet biscuits, where he's like, he had like another girlfriend goat before the crawl happened, and he's like, he's so upset he even took the pet biscuit too. Like he's like, I wish I was never alive, basically, because of what horrors the crawl does to him and everything. And he just has a really like great arc where he ends up getting a dad. You know, Carl adopts him. Carl has another child now.
Another pet to add to the collection.
Because I mean, like, you can't act like Donut is very much big sister mode with Prepotente all throughout. Like, she becomes like his new motherly figure because he doesn't know what's going on. And he comes to Carl and he comes to love Carl very much. And he doesn't get a scene singing in the book when he should have, because everybody wanted to hear his song until the end. But that it's not the same as the Take on Me chapter.
I'm looking through. I mean, we didn't really talk because, like, okay, so we have Heat 1, which is where they're in the desert, right, or whatever, and they're just like going.
They're introduced to
Is it not it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like anything.
Because the
It's like
second one's like
dark.
when they're raining and hailing. Yeah, like it was
Yeah, but
dark.
the first one's dark, like, because they're like, they can't see that far in front of them, because Donut has to cast the torch spell. And he's like, I still can't see.
And then we have second one where it's like hail the size of houses.
And then Carl has to
down.
put on the kangaroo.
He's literally like Tanuki Mario.
Is that the second heat or the third heat? He has to put on the kangaroo.
It's the second one because then it like bleeds over a little bit into the third heat because that's when they do the interview, and then the third heat.
Fourth heat.
I'm trying to remember what they did in the third heat. I'm gonna be honest.
I don't know. We don't have it. I think it was
because the fourth.
Oh, that was the one where the drug guy drove down the big fucking ramp thing, and the guy that's all cracked out.
Yes, it's the downhill like
ramp
derby.
Whatever,
they're just going down a ramp as
and
fast
it's really
as they
short.
can.
I'm pretty sure, so that's why there's not.
Yeah, that's why I don't have very many highlights. But the fourth one is where we're getting more of like that classic Carl sort of vibe where they're going on these tracks. Everyone's got a different one. There's like a water slide. There's a jungle. There's all this.
And this is
and
when
then they
we
run
find out
into
about the pineapple
ginger
cabaret.
cannibals.
Yeah,
I thought that was really interesting.
Satan's butthole.
I was reading this and I was like, what the fuck is happening? And I thought this is probably one
Satan's
of
water park.
the most fun. But Satan's also like a Godzilla hedgehog.
Yeah. And Donut was very upset about that because she lost.
This was a good
the other
one.
time.
This one was also very stressful with the way that they have to like move things
Because they
around, and you're kind of
switched tracks too. Because like originally Carl and Donut were in like a jungle thing, and then they end up going to the water park one. Right?
yes. And then
Yeah.
this is the one where the heiress is finally like
Oh
reintroduced,
yes.
and the little tooth fairy with Amani,
Well,
it
Eris is
becomes it's like
scary too.
Queen of
Like,
Chaos.
well, because she's the god of chaos. She shows up to Carl. She freezes time or whatever and everything, and then she's basically like to Carl, like, "Hey, I'm gonna flip this coin or whatever, and one of these horrible things is gonna happen to you." And there's like Donut dies, there's Carl dies, there's everybody you love dies, and like a bunch of horrible things that could happen. And she goes to like flip the coin, and Carl grabs it, and she's like, "Oh, you really are like chaos. The only way like I won't do this is if you truly devote yourself to me." And Carl would never do that. Carl's not looking. Carl could never be devoted to anyone or anything except for Princess Donut herself. You know, his child. Which, and then now we don't know what's going to happen within that aspect because we have to wait until, I guess, the end of the next book. Whenever the ascendancy happens, that's like whenever whatever result of that is going to affect everything, which is very scary.
Which by the end of the fourth one, so we're a little over halfway through these heats, they go from having 5,500 people down to less than 3,000, because you're not really getting these like
they're not doing the same thing that they
room.
used to. Yeah, there used to be like
that was
at
interesting.
every section there'd be like how many viewers there were, how many crawlers were left and stuff, which they don't have like that opportunity. There's no breaks in this one. This is all gas, no brakes.
No pun intended. Uh
You know, like, so they're like really going. And then the next heat, this is the heat whenever they hire, or no, is heat 4 too, I think, is whenever like they hire those mercenaries, and then like the mercenaries, like they get knocked out or whatever. Is that right?
Yeah, I think this is the one, because this is where we are having inserted inside of this factory, which is like a toy factory. Everyone's kind of racing through it. I think there's some people that have different ones, right?
No,
But
I think
this
it's
one
all
there's
like a factory sort
was
of thing. But
no,
this
I
is
thought
where,
that like Pepper Tinte is on this map though. Like there's other heats that are
yeah,
on
some
this
of them
map.
are like on the same one. But this is the one too where we have Don Quixote's arc finishing up, because we've been having to deal with like Porky and Corky being separated since the Gate of the Feral Gods, maybe? I don't know whenever he got hit with the split personality spell. I want to say then, though. Don't quote me on that, though. And Don Quixote has been like a mercenary for Carl and Donut for a few books now, you know, and he's kind of just like been depressed and everything, and he just gets his whole arc throughout. I thought like the whole scene with like whenever, like, because there's like drama and stuff, we're not going to get into it because there's not like super much, but I thought that scene whenever like Corcunda finally like is reunited with himself, and like him and Dong have a beautiful loving sacrifice at the end of that heat too. They like jump off the back of the thing and they go to fight the
It
god.
reminded me a lot of like the little fire demon in the Anarchist Cookbook.
Oh yeah,
It
I
was there's
remember.
a lot of like pieces, vibes, I suppose, that are kind of in this one, but I think it works out really well. Like I just think it's interesting comparing like the two, how far Matt Dinniman has come with his world building, that he was able to construct essentially like 6 different worlds, maybe 7, because they technically split one of the rounds or whatever
Yeah, because
when they
Heat
go into a
6
different
and
area.
7 2 is like one,
Yeah.
because Heat 6 and 7 ends up being one continuous heat afterwards, because they kind of do this heat, and then this is the one where there's like a whole like war on drugs like discussion Matt Dinniman is having too, where he's again inserting his very clear critique on like social commentary and political ideology, talking about how like the way that this corporation essentially got people addicted to drugs on purpose
Which
to
is very
make more
reminiscent
money.
of a COINTELPRO, and like if you look at what
Yeah.
the CIA did in Nicaragua, this is a very well documented, and so many people on the left have discussed this aspect of history, and it's so incredibly nuanced. If you like learning about that, what do I got? What do I got on my shelf? There's that book I just finished about the CIA and the Pope. I'll throw that on the screen. And there's another one that's like drugs without the
Operation
hot air. If
Gladio.
you want like an idea of what's happening,
Operation
yes,
Gladio is the book.
Operation Gladio.
And then
They're all
Chaos
like
too,
covert,
even.
and then yeah,
Chaos talks
Chaos
about
is
it
another one.
with a lot of the CIA stuff. Which, I mean, Chaos I think is really relevant too. I mean, it's not even to mention like the hippie aspect that like Donut talks about at the beginning of the book too, whenever she's talking about like the I don't know, the bugbear. I don't know if they were bugbears. I really don't remember what race they were. But like she's like they're not even real hippie sort of thing, and she's like they almost feel like CIA plants sort of things because like they look like hippies, but they're not acting like hippies, which is a lot of what like the CIA did
They don't
in
even
like the
smell like patchouli.
yeah. Which like that, but that's why I think Chaos like that pairs very well. Maybe Matt Dinniman read Chaos while he was writing this. Who knows? But like I think that had a lot of like aspects that are pretty similar in that way. And it was also very interesting the way that he just like shoehorns it in. That's why like I don't even understand like how Republicans or like right wing people read this and they like don't get it.
Turn off their brain.
Yeah.
No,
Like
think.
and then moving on
Because
to
all of this is like scattered throughout all of this. Like
yeah,
we
this
have
isn't the first time it's happened either, like throughout the Dungeon Crawler Carl series.
no, like we talked about World War I and I of the Bedlam Bride.
Yeah.
We like got to get into all of that. We've talked about like in the
I think
Butcher's Masquerade. We
there's
talked
like
about like the Tsar because of Tsarina. Like we have discussed so many things that Matt has put into this absolutely incredible piece of literature, modern day classic, modern day Count of Monte Cristo. I mean,
well, I think one thing, well, because like I think even with the way, because like the AI is like this all-knowing like history buff, quote unquote, sort of thing, is that Matt Dinniman's able to use it in a lot of ways. Because I think it was the Butcher's Masquerade too, where we were able to discuss there was like the minor accident that happened in Pennsylvania, I want to say, and like the AI has a whole little spiel about that, and that's something that I learned about too, where like why we have a lot of workers' rights and the way that like people are protected differently now because of that mine collapse in like the 1800s or whatever it was, you know, and like the way that he just sprinkles this in, it's so natural, but then also like it gets you thinking. Matt Dinniman is a genius. Absolute cinema. That's how I feel.
yeah, even with like the ginger cannibals, like Donna is the one to acknowledge like the racist caricatures
Well, because there's
of,
like African like mask and stuff that they're wearing in the jungle too.
but also it's like a play on like the whole like it didn't start in South Park, but like it's been really revved up, like the gingers not having souls, being evil, which a lot of that links back to the way that like Irish people have been
Yeah.
suppressed in the
Well,
United States
because
and have been like racialized.
yeah, because
So
Irish people were not
very
considered
interesting.
white until in relative recent history, which I feel like conservatives love to like ignore those facts too. You know, like how they like to pretend that
Yeah.
like they're
I
like, oh,
also okay, I'm white. I'm white and I'm not redhead. But I do get on Black TikTok, and I remember like a year or two ago, Black TikTok was talking about how
I do
redheaded
remember that.
people are black people. So that like they make that joke, and I feel like Matt is online and maybe got that.
Probably.
I can see people taking contention with it, but like I'm also online. I also read a lot of stuff, so like of history and like culture and like sociology and whatnot. It makes
Mm-hmm.
sense like why it was used. It's not.
It's
It's
not
one of those
being
things that I think
used,
Republicans could like see it and like maybe not get it.
and even liberals to an extent too, that they're like, oh, this is Matt Edmund being evil. when in reality it's just like, no, it's a deeper social commentary than what your puny brain can comprehend.
This is a Rick and Morty IQ required to understand Nightcrawler Carl.
But then moving on to Heat 6, I mean, Heat 6 and 7 is one continuous race with just like one pit stop in between two, where this is the one where they're in the apartment buildings too, and then like the AI is crashing out, where it's like glitching out and stuff because like he obviously, I think, to me, I don't know if you got this, but I feel like the AI kind of represents like an accelerationist mindset to me in certain ways, because we know the AI is exploited, right? And the AI is aware of that exploitation through like these different corporations, through the Syndicate, through the Borant Corporation, and things like that. And it's self-aware enough to know that what's being done is right, while also perpetuating the same violence. And it doesn't care about the suffering that other people have.
Is the AI in this eco-fascist? Like, is that like the symbolism here? It almost kind of gives that vibe where they're like, you know, the eco-fascist, like, literally, if we just killed off all of humanity, like, the Earth would be better off. And it's like, but okay, like, I see what you mean, but like, also, I do think that humans have inherent value. Maybe we should evaluate like the oppressive systems and not just genocide, because usually it's like it falls back on being like that. Almost, that's like the closest I can come to with the AI, because it is like its own creation.
It's like woke, but it's not. You know, like that's why I don't even understand. Like, it's a really weird way to try to like find a real world like example of it, because like it does understand exploitation and it does understand the harms and stuff, but rather than finding solidarity, it finds ways to oppress Carl and his friends. You know?
It's very strange for its own like personal entertainment, but also it gives them outs. Like, it's not logically consistent with what you would expect the AI to be doing, especially like when it's crashing out. Like, and we don't really learn more until after the 7th heat. We have, after the 6th heat is when a lot of people end up taking deals.
Yeah.
So there was like 989 crawlers, and then
because that's one thing too, is that they were trying to figure out the best. They were trying to get as many people to take deals as possible, so there was less crawler on crawler races. But then what the AI ends up doing anyways is it ends up making NPC only races. And so crawlers are still racing against each other, which is why they end up having to send more people through like the nothing, quote unquote, which is not like quite the Pineapple Cabaret. It's like some other way that they've been told that there's a way to like get out of the dungeon, which is they have to go to the casino thing, and which is where all of the strippers,
Desperado Club,
because all the strippers have been disappearing every time they go to investigate whatever's going on there, you know. And so then Chris ends up getting sent in there, Louis gets sent there. I don't know, is there anybody else major?
Lena.
Well, no, Lena went to the
Tron.
Batista? They went to the Pineapple Cabaret because they went through the cleaner bots.
Well, Chris and Brittany will hop through.
Chris and Brittany did go through, yeah. Louis, because they went specifically.
That's all I highlighted on chapter 85, page 630, because I couldn't remember exactly who went through on which.
Yeah, because they went the different way. Well, I think Lee. Like, this is all, like, different, because some of them are going different ways. I think Batista went... I want to say he went through a cleaner bot.
He may have, but they're, like, all gone. By all said and done, they get everything. They figure out how to, like, save themselves, because the second part of the Heat 7 or whatever, which is, like... Or, like, the because it was, like, a two-part. They split up, like, the...
Mm-hmm. They split up the apartment.
They went down, then they have to go back up. And then by the very end... They get to the 11th floor. There's 203 people.
Yeah, and so now they have to do the Parade of Horribles, which is like what this floor is. Which, again, Jeff Hayes, Matt Dinniman, you guys are geniuses. The time to level collapse, 3 hours and 15 minutes. How much time is left in the audiobook? 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Oh, was it?
Exactly. Literally exactly. Like, I'm telling you, absolute cinema.
That's cool that they planned it. I
Like,
wonder if they like retroactively added that or just how
I
did they
don't
figure
know.
that out?
I don't know. Geniuses, that's what they are. Like, I was like, oh my god, like, literally they did it so perfectly. And
But
then,
yeah, as soon as they get to the 11th floor, then people take more deals, right? Because there was the
yes.
deals at the end of the 10th floor, which was
And then they were
between 6th
saying
and 7th.
that the better deals would be after the 10th floor finish, too, which is why some people didn't take deals halfway through the race.
So then of the 203 people who made it to the 11th floor, 172 took deals. So they're left with only 23 crawlers. That's it, period. Matt
Yeah.
Dinniman's like, I'm done keeping track. Y'all are all you're
Which,
gone.
so then they do like their whole little, like the parade thing, which is a very interesting thing the AI is having them do. Because again, this is the AI giving the crawlers a voice to. This one felt like very Hunger Games esque, like whenever, like in the Hunger Games, whenever like Senna is doing like his like rebellion with like through Katniss's outfits and things like that. Like that's what it kind of reminded me of, where it's like them whenever they're being plastered on screen being like, hey, you guys are using us for your entertainment, which is what is going on throughout the entire crawl. Like we are not your entertainment. And that happened, you know, like the way that they have like the different things. And then we have like the different floats or whatever, which are like they're relating to the story that we get more context for at the end of the book to the what do they call
Because
it?
the AI just wants to be understood, like what
Yes.
exactly is going on. So, like, the first part is the resolution float. And
Yeah.
he's like getting into like what happened with the primals. We're realizing that all the people in like the mask and stuff, he's like, these are the primals. The thing that Carl, the one class that he chose that nobody ever really chooses, Carl chooses it, and then the whole story ends up being centered around what happened to the primals and how that ended up leading to this point where there's crawls. And the way
Yes.
that this chapter
Because
is done, ooh, it was so good.
well, because like the way that we end up learning too, the way the story is told, because we have the very last like chapter at the end with that when we talking about like the history, which we did have. I don't know if it was last book or the book before. We did have some stuff about like the is it the apothecary and the what's the other thing mentioned? The you know,
Plenty?
no, not the plenty, the other thing, the with the
The
S or
pacifists?
something. No, it's something to do with the you know, the history of the thingy with the I don't remember the myth.
Scalon
Skelop Scolopendra. Like kind of, but like it's like I don't know what the word, because there's like the reason why like the crawls happen is because like so the idea is that like I don't remember the word the AI used for it, like whatever like their society was before like the crawls and stuff started happening. They were like beings that existed, and then they wanted to split off to die. Some of them wanted to split off to die because obviously they didn't have enough resources for their means of keeping society alive, right? And so that's why they do crawls now, though, is because they want the resources to keep the people at the center of society, the galaxy, alive. So then they go to these other planets and exploit their resources and take them for themselves, for the people to live, because this is a great way to genocide a lot of people, where you get all of the resources of like Earth, for example, with only having to deal with maybe 1% of the population left to live and use for the resources, versus so then the people that are at the center of the universe get 99% of the resources, you know, which how is that's nothing but a net benefit for the evil people, right? Because they just killed a bunch of people and they took all of their stuff and their land and everything. And I don't remember, but this is apparently like what has happened in the past before, right? They say that this is like history repeating itself of whatever the myth is of this like society, and the AI is one of like the descendants or whatever of this. And so the idea was some people were like, hey, we should all just kill ourselves, and then we don't have to worry about like using the resources anymore, which I can see the eco-fascist argument for that sort of thing. But then you also have the other side of people that are like, well, we shouldn't just die. And rather than people like, I don't know, trying to live within their means and like, doing something for the net good of all beings, they're just like, let's just exploit every other planet for their resources.
Which is like essentially what happened with the British Empire.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at like how big England is, I know we always joke online when they were like, oh, I have to travel so far to go see my friend, and it's like an hour drive. Because England is very small, like compared to the United States. So rather than dealing and reconciling with the class contradictions that were present, they expanded to make it more comfortable because they were like, oh, we can just like go explore. And then we have them coming to the United States, well, what was like Turtle Island, and they're like, oh, I want this, even though Columbus was Spanish and he ended up like landing on Haiti. But
Yeah.
he like enslaved all the people in Haiti, and then they just kept coming.
Not even mentioned to like
To
what the British people did to like the indigenous people in Australia, taking over the entirety of that continent. We had the French taking over a lot of Africa and colonization within that way too. Like just the way.
exactly. This is just how settler
Yeah.
colonialism functions. And obviously, we talk about it like every single time because it's our most like topical means of discussing settler colonialism. But what is happening actively against the Palestinians, and what is
Mm-hmm.
happening to Lebanon, and now all of the neighbors as well as anyone that's not agreeing with Israel, which Israel doesn't fucking run the United States. The US supports Israel. We need to get that fucking straight. I'm so tired
Yeah.
of people being like, Israel is actually controlling the United States. Like, you know that thing. Pick up a history book. We support
Yeah.
them. Like like the world
We are the
powers,
reason why
especially
it's the
like
way it is. you know? Like,
it makes me
but people
crazy.
want
But
it's
that's
because
like what's happening here.
our tax dollars go to Israel, yes, but that's because we want our tax dollars, not us, Mariah and I do not, but like the United States as an entity wants power of West Asia. And this is how they do that.
Because of resources, having that sort of like, that's what like where Israel is located in the Middle East, like other countries aside from like the United Emirates, like Dubai,
UAE.
yeah, there's not a lot of US military bases in those areas because of they don't want they don't want the US there. Like the US goes and conquers. Like that's what Manifest Destiny is about.
Yeah.
And I think the way that this is done in Carl, it becomes so apparent because I think people can really relate to like they enjoy the story. The fantastical elements in this are just done so well. The sci-fi is done so well. It is so compelling. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
locked in. I don't know anyone that's just like glazing over reading Carl. Like it's written so well, and
Yeah.
I think all it takes is a push, a shove, a conversation, just seeing what's on the news so
I
that you
think
know.
what's so great about Carl too is the growth that you see, because like the first book is political, but it's also not political in the same way that this book is critiquing like settler colonialism versus the first. Like obviously these themes are introduced in the first book, but you can tell, I think Matt Dinniman must have had a lot to learn like within his left-wing journey and stuff like that, because the way that the first book is written and how it talks about it too, where Carl is very much like an American experiencing like the troubles and hardships of like the bare minimum of what people in South America have faced because of the United States, or what people in West Asia have faced because of what America is currently doing. Where now, and I think it's happening to a lot of people that live here too, where they kind of realize like, oh, we're the bad guys, and the way that that's able to present itself to us. Because I mean, like even Matt Dinniman, like he himself, he's got Rosetta being like the rich, like doing like messing with the rich finances, which is like what people like to do, where like vote with your wallet, like do whatever you want with your money, okay, liberals? Like I'm not trying to criticize you for like boycotting or whatever, do what you want. But also like Rosetta has a great line where she's like, it doesn't do anything because they can just reinvest their finances to wherever else. Like, they're still going to make their money elsewhere because they're rich. And the only way that they won't is with all of their heads being in baskets, you know?
Yeah. So what she says in context of the Harry Tish line that we were
Yes.
talking about earlier off screen, I think.
Yeah. Well, because we have some, like, it's Odette's husband, right? And he's obviously like a big financer within the orcs. He like makes money off the orcs and stuff like that. And Carl and Donut are like, what the? Because like orcs are very unpopular within the realm and stuff because there's like Prince Malwart and stuff like that, which are obviously like they're fascist. This is also like Prince Malwart and them, like they're like the fascists, like they're like the true like Donald Trump. Like I think that's our closest comparison to Donald Trump too, because like in the earlier books too, that's whenever Carl's like, you should stand up to your oppressors and kill, like get rid of your government, whether or not like I think Carl says it a lot more like nicer and it's a lot more like do something about your government. Where this one, where in this book, it's very much like actually we need a revolution.
Explicitly.
Yeah.
It is explicitly stated. Because he says, for months now, we have moved from floor to floor, and each time it's a new game with some bullshit arbitrary rules all designed to whittle us down. We have fought, we have pushed, we have resisted, and all the while we died and we died and we died. You turned on your televisions and your screens and your immersion systems and watched our apocalypse with glee, laughing until our blood has run dry, only to move on to the next season to someone else over and over. We are fucking done. We are not playing by your rules anymore. This is our revolution, motherfuckers. I'm like, that was such a hard line. I was like, let's
Okay,
fucking go. And
Carl.
like he
Yeah.
keeps talking about it, like the difference, because initially he's like giving this speech about how he's talking to Donut, because Donut's like, well, what's the difference between
Revenge
revenge and
and
vengeance?
Yeah, where vengeance is, these people need to pay for the consequences of their actions.
Because he says revenge, as nice as that sounds, requires the party directly responsible. How do you get revenge against a generational system that has existed before any of us were born? But vengeance, every one of you, whether it is in a big or small way, you are responsible. And those of us who survive this, we will remember, we will not forget, we are coming. It may not be me, it may not be my friends, but we are coming. And I just feel like this is just a good encapsulation of Matt Dinniman's. This is Matt
Yeah.
speaking to the readers. He's
Yeah.
speaking to you directly. He's like, this is what I'm saying, but I'm not. Like, he's like, I'm
Yeah.
not inciting anything, but in Carl, this is what's happening.
And
And
that's one thing.
it's so clear. He's not a liberal. It's so
Yes.
clear.
Where it's just like too, where so many people have like their comforts of, especially living in the United States, like we are the most comfortable people nation, like anybody in the West is like significantly more comfortable than, and that's exactly why it's up to us to speak out. You know, that's why it's coming for you all of you who are participating in this wholesale murder of me and my people, everyone before us, those who didn't speak out. I'm holding you all culpable, which is like, yeah, this is why you sitting in your chair, you should be doing the bare minimum of speaking out, not just being like, I voted for the Democrat. But I think
There's
like
just
Matt Dinniman, I
there's
mean, he
so
literally
much.
says, Carl says, eat the rich, so he's one of us.
He doesn't say like tax the rich. No, he says
Eat them.
eat them. Quite
Kill
literally,
them.
Rend is literally eating them. He says yum. And it's like, you know what? Yes. Let's keep it going.
Well, because then we have with Scolopendra, because obviously they had the final boss fight where they're like, the only way you can get off this forest if you beat the Carcarian Prime and then you beat Scolopendra. So then Carl does his whole Carl thing, whatever that may be to you guys. He's got his own crazy plan where he ends up spawning Scolopendra, which is crazy to say the least, because that's supposed to be the level 18 boss. Nobody's ever fought her. And then she has 9 waves of attack.
That was great. I was not expecting this. When I was sat, I actually filmed my reaction for the last like 100-ish pages on like a time lapse. I saw the name brought up. I was like, oh.
Yeah, because he has her
Carl,
come in.
what are you doing?
But then because he has to get out of, because he's like stuck under Embrys's thumb too, because he ended up having to worship Embrys. And so then he ends up getting wrapped up within this, where he ends up going into like inside of her, where she's got the club of her, where all of the rich people are like quote unquote protected in
I
there
thought that was so weird. I did not realize they were literally inside
of her.
of the
Yeah.
creature.
Yeah. So then like he's inside of her, but then he ends up doing a bunch of Carl things, and he ends up defeating Empress, whatever have you. And because of Scolopendra, she's only weakened to lightning. She ends up getting kind of hurt by the lightning god. Don't remember his name. Sorry, but like
Started with like a
chaos
T, right?
ensues. Yeah, it's like I want to say like Thaddeus or something like that. But what's so interesting to me is because like the whole like arc of Scolopendra, like with the lore of the dungeon and the lore of like the world that Matt Dinniman has created, everything being recontextualized with this, because like we have like one of them being like the one of her attacks is like the Bedlam Bride. Like Matt Dinniman has been planting these seeds early on, within this, where I think technically she's still going to have to do her attacks, and then he ends up turning Scolopendra into a real woman.
Accidentally, because Donut got the biscuits confused. Just
That's
grab
only
one
because
because
Eris
Carl
mixed them
doesn't
up,
organize
organized
it
his
and just like,
inventory.
here you go.
But she didn't have
And it
time
made it a little
either.
chaotic. But
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
What's so
That was
interesting.
that
But
that
it's so
whole
crazy.
boss battle was crazy. How
So
they
it
figured out
makes,
how to keep everyone safe
yeah,
too, because there's like,
the
30% chance
necklace
that everyone, the whole percentage, the way it's all up to just
chance.
probability.
Yeah. Which, I
So
mean, so
interesting.
Scolopendra attacks in 9 phases. Matt Dinniman himself has confirmed that there will technically only be 9 books, but he's splitting the 9 books, the 9th book, into 2 books. Hello? Like, he's got something big cooking. He said he's writing this whole last book as one book and then just splitting it halfway in the middle to do a asshole cliffhanger. His words.
It's gonna be so good.
So, which is like this whole like the way like the final like interlude from that lady where she's like talking about all of the different. One of the attacks is the inevitable ruin, which is like all of the different books that Matt Dinman has written.
But also like the way like the Scolopendra like attacks function is also the way that like fascist attack. Like that was such an interesting thing in the little epilogue where you're having, who's talking about this? I can't remember.
It's like
One of the
her
characters
name's
is talking about
Cindy,
it.
but she's one of the like she was mentioned. I want to say in one of the earlier. I want to say it's the Anarchist Cookbook where she wrote like a history book about the crawls, and so she's like a
That's
historian.
right.
That
Yes, yes. I remember that. But she says that some were what we might call psychological attacks that resulted in rapid social movements, shifts in philosophy, which I thought was really interesting. Attack one
yes,
was taking control of the infrastructure, but the second and third attack were more social in nature, which is interesting. And I'm so curious how this is going to be expanded upon in the last 2 installations, because these are going to be god tier level conclusions. If it's going the way it's
well, because
going, it's already been going great.
the ascendancy is happening too. So like Matt Dinniman's got a lot on his plate to try to make all of his major social commentary while also I think having, because that's what makes Carl so great, is that it's got great social commentary while also being a good story along with it, where you care about the characters and what happens to the characters. And so he's really like this is what makes this series better than most series that we've read.
I
Because
think
it's
about
got
this
all of
series
those.
all the time because I'm like, nothing else is going to have this. Like, it's
But
special. I'm not reading it just because it's a literary RPG. It's the way that the characters are structured, the way that all of the women characters in this, despite what people are saying online, I'm glad that Carl in this is a cis white straight man, because those are the ones that need to hear this the most. And
yes,
all of the women in this are not like depicted poorly. Like, they're all really strong
Amani is a great
characters.
character, and people want to criticize like Donut's a cat. She's still a feminine presenting character too. One of the most important, most powerful crawlers in the whole game. She's been more powerful than Carl the whole game. And
She's
there's
also like the autistic coded like character, because there's always like, oh, I'd rather be a cat type of like
Yeah.
oddest person, you know, like I wish I could be it. And it's like, this is like what would happen if a cat became sentient and they have to survive. Like that's crazy. That's a crazy concept. And I guess it's like silly goofy, but like it's done well.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know. Even like the way he talks about B.
yes, because like obviously like B is a bad person, but I think Carl does a really good job. He tries not to villainize her too much. I mean, like she's objectively a bad person, and that's the thing, guys. Women can be bad people too sometimes, and there's also not a lot of great guys in this. Quan Ch, horrible dude. You know, Frank Q, is that his name? He's a pretty bad guy
He
too.
was an agent.
Yeah, literally, and he was like that guy sucks. Like quite literally, like Matt Dinniman
And
had
the same with
evil dudes.
Maggie.
Yeah,
Maggie was evil, but she was also an ICE agent.
yeah.
Like
Like
they both were.
Matt Dinniman, like he's got like it did like Matt Dinniman does not have like discrimination. I think in his forefront of his mind whenever he writes any of these characters, and I think the people that do that like don't. Maybe you need to work on your reading comprehension a little bit.
No, it's because there's even like an homage in this to the first boss that he encounters. Like
Yeah,
the woman from Mexico who is crying and has cockroaches, the hoarder. He thinks back. He's like, we were all just like victims, and like there was
yeah.
just nothing that you could do. And it's just so good. This was such a good installation. It was
Well,
everything I needed.
but with the ending, so like we have like Cindy's last thing too, where she says, "Well," because they're like, "What? Who stops it and how?" Like talking about like who defeats Scolopendra and like everything or whatever. And then it says, "Well, we don't really know what happened in real life, but many people believe the apothecary is the one who stopped it. In the fairy tale, the princess takes control of the all tree by killing it, accidentally killing everyone she loves in the process. But this tempers the final attack, saving the galaxy. She then plants another tree. This process starts over again. Don't ever forget this story is a tragedy." Matt Dinniman is literally telling us that everyone dies. I'm not kidding. I swear to God, I think that's
Everyone but Princess Donut. I know, literally, Mal. I was
like,
gagged.
that's what
and
I
then
think.
the little interlude with Samantha.
Louis.
No, Samantha says, but he tricked me into giving birth to a monster. Will destroy
she's
all the
messaging
creation.
Louis that.
Yeah, I know, but that wasn't Louis that said it. I was saying what Samantha said.
You said the interlude with Louis. It's Louis's interlude because it turns out that he's not even in the Pineapple Cabaret either. He's in Sheol, which is level 15, which nobody's supposed to be able to switch floors. So that's like a whole thing too, because now Carl too, with him turning Scolopendra into a woman and defeating that floor, they need to get to the 18th floor because all of the gods are about to be fighting now. And whoever wins the ascendancy, after that happens, all of the floors just get destroyed. The AI can't even stop that. So they have to speed run all of these floors, basically.
He needs to go craft a bunch of staircases, like in Stardew Valley, and just
99 stone.
Go down.
Yeah. It's the Skull Cavern run. Yeah, but... Which I think, like, we didn't even talk about, like, Samantha, where I think Samantha is supposed to be a pedo, I guess, because the Crackaron's a part of it, and then Samantha, and I guess, like, that one guy needs to find the two other pieces and, like, put it all together to make a pedo again, which then, like, that relates to the scavenger's daughter, because, like, whether a pedo is the scavenger's daughter or a pedo's daughter is the scavenger's daughter, there's, like, debates on the mythos of that, which I imagine that will be answered in the next
I'm sad
novel.
that Samantha's like not in it, but I do think this kind of gave the idea that there's going to be multiple point of views moving forward. There has to be.
I think it'll be more.
I think it'd be cool.
I think it'll be more like the interludes were, because we had like Quasar's interlude. Like I think it'll just be more like interlude sections where they might be more frequent, but I think they'd be. Because I mean, like we haven't even heard from Katya this floor. Like the most we got was like, we think Katya's okay. Like, what is that? I wonder, for us?
Alternatively, because Florin has his own graphic novel, I wonder, because that's where Florin.
But that's supposed to be a prequel.
And Lucy Mar are. But who's to say that Matt won't just like make another one?
I don't know.
Do it.
Well, and that's like the thing too. Lucy Mar had a child with her.
Yeah, who's the fucking child?
I don't know.
That's the crazy thing. It's like in the dungeon.
Yeah.
Level 15. Just this kid.
Well, she
There's
would
no
have just
safe
gone
rooms.
to
Can
floor
they even
12.
get into a safe room? They can't even really
Well, there
access
is
like their
the
chats
next
very well.
floor. But there's on the next floor. I don't know. We don't know what the next floor really looks like or anything. That's the thing. It's just we just know the ascendancy starts. This is I think this is like floor 12 or 13. It's the furthest a crawler's ever made it, like officially.
Carl and Donut, they're just baddies.
Well, Donut's gonna kill everyone she loves on accident. So don't get too attached. But I think, oh my gosh, I just know I'm gonna cry. I just know if
Yeah.
that happens. Which
This one was crazy. There was a lot of like people leaving. There was a lot of death of some like NPCs and stuff. It was hard. There was some really like tough points, and the ending really shook me. I really enjoyed it.
we still have a lot to go on. 2 more almost 1,000-page books. Matt Dinniman.
We are going to do a reread though, and I'm curious.
Definitely.
Maybe we can do like a little recap of our reread, and maybe we can just talk about like what we ended up learning as like a mini. We call them minis. Usually they're full length episodes, like hour-long discussions. I don't know, maybe 45 minutes of us just talking about stuff that we didn't realize or connected
Like, do
after
people
reading
want
all of
us to
them.
review all of them again? Or what? Like,
Well,
I
they
don't
don't
know.
get a choice. This is our
Well,
podcast. We can do
the
whatever
thing
we
is,
want with
I
it.
don't know when I want to start a reread because I think I want to wait till closer to whenever book 9 is actually announced.
Yeah, not right
Too.
now.
Which I'm hoping, because if Matt Dinniman is writing them all, like writing book 9 and 10, I'm going to call it 9 and 10. I understand they're all one book, which Matt Dinniman, he knows what he's doing, whatever. I'm hoping that because he's writing it as one long book, he's able to have them come out, like, obviously not like at the same time. I imagine there'll be some gappage between them, but I hope it's not like a super long, like, I hope it's not like 2 years in between each book. I hope it's like a year at most between each of those, which I don't know. I don't even think he's anywhere done with. I'm about to join Matt Dinniman's Patreon, to be
I might
honest.
join the Reddit page.
The Reddit page, who cares about that?
I feel like you learn a lot on Reddit. I'm always on Reddit.
I think
Usually I'm
there's,
looking up like Cookie Run Kingdom shit on
I
there
think he
lately.
keeps up his Patreon more.
We can link it too if anyone wants to join the
Yeah.
Patreon. We might be in there. You might see us. I don't know what tier member, but at least it'll give us some more because we're gonna be thirsty for more. We're floating,
Well,
possibly
because he
starting
like
another
gave
long
out,
series later this year
he
too.
gave
By the
out
way,
some early stuff. Like he gives like this says right here, this says Dungeon Crawler Carl Book 8 A Parade of Horribles, chapters 96, 97, 98 in epilogue. I don't know what this means.
maybe did he just like serialize?
I don't know. Access to advanced chapters at least 2 weeks ahead of postings on the Royal Road. That's for the $3 tier. $5 a month is regular discussions with the creator regarding ongoing creation of the story. Access to updated Mobi or EPUB versions of the stories, and you can read on your device. $10 a month is Patreon recognition, access to other Matt Dinniman fictions, and everything in the previous tiers. There's $30 a month. Members of this tier will receive all the previous benefits plus exclusive merch. I will send you a physical autographed copy of any Matt Dinniman if I have available. Some older books might be out of stock. That one's sold out though. So the best you can join is $10 a month, which I honestly might do that. Matt Dinniman, I love you. You can have all my money. You can rob me blind. I don't care.
Well, what's next? What's next on the podcast? Thanks for hanging out. This was a little bit longer, but this was a longer book, so
This is more in depth too. Next up, we're doing our Fable monthly book club read. There's still time to join. If you're listening to this now, as soon as we post this, we're reviewing There's No Anti-Memetics Division by Quantum QTNM or whatever that guy's name is, and we're reading that with our book club. I'm I think that's pretty much all we have right now.
Yeah, we're going to have a busy summer, so keep an eye out. And we're officially going to be influencers for the Ohio Book Fest.
Columbus Book Fest.
Yeah, Columbus, Ohio. I don't
Columbus
know.
Book
Is Ohio
Fest
real? We're going to find out.
Their Columbus Book Fest we've been officially accepted as official creators for the Columbus Book Fest. So if you guys want to see us there, we will be in Columbus, July 11th and 12th. You know, we'll be kind of famous, you know, which
We'll be walking around with badges. We're going to have a security guard and a cinematographer. It's just Kristen's boyfriend.
It's going to be, I don't think it's going to be like super anything crazy, but if anybody's like near Ohio, so skibbity, come see us, you know?
Yeah, we'll be walking around there. If there's any authors you think we should read from, we do have like a little TBR for this summer that we're going to try to get through as much as we can, just because there's some authors that we haven't read from that are going to be there. Chris Smalls, though, is going to be there. So I am very, very excited. And we're going to try to interview possibly some of them, depending. I don't know how any of this works. This is our first time.
We're going to get. Yeah, this is our first
We're just going to fake it till we make it.
So
we're going to kill the vibe. We'll never get invited again. But yeah, I think it's fun. It's exciting. It's not Oregon. So I'm excited. Hopefully I'll get out of the smoke. That's what I'm so excited about, because there's going to be such bad wildfires this summer.
You think that early in July? I thought it was until later July.
It's so dry because we didn't get any like snow. Like our ski resorts and stuff weren't open for super long. I haven't even gone to the river yet to see how low like the dams are, which is going to be really scary. We're going to be in a drought. We always are, but this one's going to be really bad. But yeah, I'll be in Ohio. Freaking Ohio.
Yeah. Well, I guess
never thought I'd be excited to go there.
If you guys liked this episode, don't forget to thumbs it up. If you want more Carl content, if whenever we do our reread, you guys want us to re-review it and rediscuss, recontextualize everything again for you, we can do that, I guess. I don't think you should count on it, though, because I don't know if I think I want to read them for my pleasure, too. Because that's one thing with the podcast. You don't always get to read for pleasure.
Like, it wouldn't be a one by one. But maybe, I don't know, maybe at that point, if there's like a big milestone that we hit, we could do like a live stream or something.
I don't know.
Whatever. If we hit like 1,000 followers on YouTube, we'll do something. I don't know.
I'm just making stuff up now.
I don't know. I just make up things. Sorry.
But other than that, like the video, follow us, subscribe to us wherever you are. Other than that, thank you and good night.